Hello, this is Vance, and this is Thursday, January the 19th, 2017. These are the CL trades for today using the slow hand method for price action. It's the morning of the 20th. I'm just doing the recap for yesterday. I couldn't do it last night because I wasn't here, but I was combating a bit of a sinus infection, so I was sneezing like crazy. Got some medication. I'm much better today, but I've been combating this sinus thing for the last few days, and yesterday was really a problem. So anyway, I was sneezing. I couldn't breathe very well, and so even though I'll do this is first thing this morning, so on Friday. So I'm going to do the recap, and I wanted to do it yesterday because yesterday was really a range day, and there wasn't a lot of trades. The biggest reason, likely, is because yesterday was the announcement for the DOE report that came out yesterday, inventory report. And as I've said in the past, it came out at 9 o'clock because this week was a short week, holiday Monday. And as a result, prices, when the announcement was made, this was just at 11 o'clock. It was 11 o'clock yesterday afternoon, or yesterday morning, I mean. And 11 a.m. at Eastern Standard Time. And price really kind of traded. This was where the announcement was made. It traded down and then really kind of got stuck. So we're in a range most of yesterday. The open was at 9 o'clock, and so 9 o'clock was right here. So his was 9 a.m. Price traded down here, and you could see yesterday morning and early on, first thing, it was really range bound. And what I mean by range bound is that you see prices turned down and really around 52.20. So we're in that neighborhood. Let's say 52.20 prices bounced down there, but you can see on this chart that after the overnight session, price was around 52.65. Let me just give you an example. In overnight, price got to a high of 52.62. Traded down. The low yesterday last night was 52.06. So a fairly tight range. 56 ticks range. I don't know what causes that. Maybe because of the announcement. I've said this in the past that as we get closer to the announcement time, prices typically will kind of trade in a much more tighter range. That could have very well been the reason yesterday. I mean, just before the open, we had this lower high at around just after 7. That it topped out just above 52.55, just under 52.60, rotates down, pulls back up, pulls down, back and forth between this pretty narrow range between a high of, let's call it 50, and a low of 25. So a 25 tick range. And I've said this in the past, and just in the recent past, with regard to here's a 30 tick stick. Let's call it 30 tick measuring stick, and you can see that this range from top to bottom was roughly 25, 30 ticks. And so that's right from 7 a.m. or from 5 a.m. yesterday, 5:30, till about just before the announcement was made right here, it was, a 30 tick range. So anytime price came down to this very low, when you see this is, if you consider this, the first time prices really tested the bottom, you can consider this a double bottom here, and triple bottom, quadruple bottom maybe. 5 times prices come down in this area. And at the other end, maybe this is testing, maybe not, up here. But along these lines, so if this is the case, once you have a testing a couple of times, and this is right at the open, looking at going long here is really the thing to do. And as long as you get your stop, as your risk reward is in alignment, and to sell near these tops. And so it really, on a shorter time frame, it really shows to your, as price drops down here, buy the support here and you sell the resistance. And so if you're looking at buying support, now you have to limit in to get your best stop because it is a fairly tight range. And 30 ticks isn't essentially extremely tight, but it really makes highlights the fact that your entry should be near the bottom of these, and your exits you should be looking at scalping out between the entry and the exit at the top. Not to say that price can't go higher, and it can. Here it shoots through a little bit, but then it turns back down. We make the announcement. Price try to bounce at this 20 area again, moves a little bit lower, establishes kind of somewhat of a lower range, and then moves up, and then finally fails, and this is for the rest of the day. This is 12 o'clock. Hits a new low near 12:30, pulls back up, and then this is for the rest of the afternoon session. Is 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then into 2 o'clock. Prices moved up, and then this is 2 o'clock right here. Finds bottom again, almost like a retest. You can say that this, price moved up, came back, kind of double tops, pulls back down, makes a double bottom, pulls back up. So, but this is getting late in the day. This is like 12, 2:30 and so forth. And then after that, however, let's just focus on a couple of trades here. My philosophy, I guess the best thing to talk about is right around news. When you have the inventory report, that can have a tendency to put prices into kind of a sideways action until the number comes out. If the API report is usually out before the Department of Energy report, and so that can have an influence on prices in the short term. And certainly when the report comes out, you can see that prices can be somewhat volatile. I'm usually flat for the news, usually. If, however, under some circumstances that do occur, let's say that for some reason or other I'm long or short in the market, and I've got a pretty big cushion on a runner before the news comes out. Let's say, for instance, I'm short on the market, and my short was just here for argument's sake, and I'm ahead, 10, 15 ticks on my runner, or 20 ticks on my runner. I might hold through the news. But it's a very rare occasion, very rare. Out of on a 9 times out of 10, at least, or higher than that, I'll be flat. And there's a reason, especially as a day trader in the morning, in order for you to get a pretty good cushion on a runner, given my kind of the way I look at it, putting contracts on at 15 ticks and then 30 ticks, by the time it hits your second tick, market's already moved 30 ticks in your direction, and your runner is being trailed basically at break even, let's say. So you're 30 ticks ahead on a runner. As I've said in the past, 30 ticks is about the maximum the CL will run before you have a 10-tick pullback. And on days when you have news, it can pull back a lot further than that, particularly at the announcement, or it doesn't run that far up until the news. It really is very, very quiet until such time as the announcement's made. It's not like that every time, but it's been my experience that you'll see a real tighter range before the news. If you go back and you look at the last, let's say, 30 times before the news comes out, you'll see that typically just before the announcement, price will get really tight. Sometimes we have some movements before it, but not very often. So it's definitely a different. You have to take a different mindset into announcements, like the Department of Energy report, and that is just based on my observations. And certainly, it's something that's quite common in the trading community, talking about how they trade news. Some traders actually trade news for a reason. In other words, they use the news and that expected movement to their advantage from a trading standpoint. I don't typically do that. I just want to be aware of it, and most of the times I'm just flat when the news comes out. However, that being said, yesterday there are opportunities up into the news, and I alluded to these earlier. Buying in at these bottoms, you'd have to limit in. Both of these are, here is not really a clearly defined. You could consider this a second entry, but if you look at this sell right in this point, price moves up to this area. It's a former, it's a lower high to the left side of your chart. You can see price is rejected in a couple of times. This is a pretty strong bar. You can go short here. if you didn't take it early, or because your stop is above these this doji, it's aggressive, a more aggressive trade. I mean, it's not really clearly defined. Part of that is because of it looks like it's reacting to this resistance price, but also because it's the news day. That's the way it is. Here's a trade here, same thing. Price. This is a first entry pullback, second entry long right here. It's a fairly strong bar. You know, it closes on its high. If you look at it from the perspective of where's your stop is below these. If you limit it in, you can put your stop lower. It's even before this bottom right here, but it's certainly below what looks like it to be the bottom of the range over here, and this where this price hesitated right here. So I thought it was a good trade, and it quickly got your first contract. Not much more than that. I mean, yeah, almost like both contract, but target usually is here. My target would is at the other side of this range. Would have instead of like looking at the full range of 30 ticks, because you can see by the time it clears, it has to break the top of this. Well, I see is the top of this range in order for you to get your second contract off. So that's something to consider. And by the time it does move up here, it is close to. It's very close to 10. This is 10:30. And so you're only half hour before the announcement. No trading, really, basically, until you see things shaking out. Now, general rule of thumb is, at least 15 minutes, not at least 15 minutes, at least 5 minutes minimum after the announcement is out. But as you can see, when the announcement was made at 11 o'clock, this is 11:04 right here. You see prices really painting very quickly. What it does tell me is that it's not really going rapidly one place and another. And even though it's a move of about 50 ticks, as far as movement in the CL is concerned, at depending on news events, it was a bit of a pullback. See price move back down, it pulls back, it moves back down. So it obviously volatility here establishes somewhat of another range in this area, about 30 ticks. Price moves up. You could sell here. It's a second entry short on this one. I don't know if I would go like really short on this one. It kind of pulls back a bit, and then you show more weakness. So if you went short on this bar right here, it does afford you enough room, but you'd probably want to, as you can see, you'd likely want to limit it in. Don't know if it really. I don't mind this trade. I think this is not a bad trade, but like I said, it's a second entry short. First entry pullback, second entry short on this one right here. So if you got in on this one, your stop is above this area to the left. So it's not too bad. If you waited, this is another strong bar here. Doesn't afford you. You'd have to limit on this one. This one would be more aggressive or later in thing. But where's your target? Your target is near these double bottoms here. So it affords you enough room to get out, and you can see that it traces down to this area. Bounces right away. I market a trade down here. It is a second entry long. First entry pulls back, second entry, but these dojis and this overlap could cause you some concern. It wasn't really definitive. It did kind of grind its way up, so you would have got your first contract off and then turned around again near the top of this range, and that was it. Pretty much, for the rest of the day, if you were fortunate enough to sell at the top again, you could have held that one down to the bottom. So not a lot of trades. I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about it to see which ones highlighted, but tough trading today. I mean, it's tough. Anytime that you have a tight range, and some of these bars are pretty long, so if you have a little trepidation, I can understand that. You'd have to hold for longer periods of time. They didn't move. This one moved right away, relatively quickly on some of these trades, but you can see some of these, depending where you got in, you might be sitting there for 5, 7, 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes before your trade moved in your direction. So you have to exercise patience today. But you should know that, considering that the previous price action is kind of back and forth a little bit. I hope this helps. Anyway, this is Vance. I'll have another update later on today, and maybe if there's anything that I think of any importance, I'll come up with. And thanks for watching. The packages for the mindful trading exercise, I'll do this again. It will be definitely this weekend. As I said, I have been battling this sinus infection the last couple of days, and all week actually I've been a cold or sinus infection. So Anyways, the packages will be out this weekend for sure. I'm a couple days behind on that. I expected them to be out yesterday, but as I said, I wasn't around. So give me another day, and we'll get this on track. But things are very exciting. Thanks for watching. I hope you find some use in this, and bye for now.